So, being said, again, thank you for joining us. This publication, Voices for Peace, which is already available online on all of our organization's website, was put together by the Quaker Council for European Affairs, War Resisters International, Agir pour la Paix, and Connection EV. Tonight, we're going to be joined by people from all of those organizations, as well as several conscientious objectors who participated in this project. I am going to, at this point, hand it over to Selena from QCEA, who's really been the driving force behind this project since the beginning, to explain the process and how we put together this publication. Thank you, Selena.
Okay, hello everyone. Thank you very much for being here. It's really a pleasure to see so many of you joining. So, as Andrew said, I am Selina and I am a communications and program coordinator at QCEA. And 2 years ago, I was tasked with working on an advocacy project about conscientious objectors. And it was completely new for me. I didn't know what it is, what does it entail, but I soon discovered that it's a really important issue in peace advocacy. So we've been thinking for some time with Andrew on how to advocate for rights of conscientious objectors. And first, we were working with a coalition with wonderful organizations like Connection EV, War Resisters International, and so on. And we've been directly talking to EU actors. However, we later on decided that we need something a bit more personal, something that tells the stories of those people. So since last September, we've been collecting stories of conscientious objectors from Europe and also countries that are related to Europe somehow. And it was a very important task for me because it was my first big research project. And thankfully, I had a great collaborators. So Zaira, Semif, and Charlène really helped me with the content, so it worked really well thanks to it. And it was also very interesting for me because I discovered that everything I knew about conscientious objectors or peace activists is somehow biased, because I thought that peace activists are this one group that is very docile, and I didn't really think that much about individual people who are actually deciding to refuse army. And over the course of 3 months, I conducted several interviews with people from Russia, with people from Eritrea, and also from other countries. And I discovered the richness of their stories. And I discovered that being a conscientious objector doesn't mean that you are this very idealistic person who just decides to quit the army or not join any military effort. Those people are also normal people who just want to live their life, or people who at a certain point discovered that it's too much for them. So we had one participant who, for example, had a Ukrainian girlfriend, but he was Russian, and he just wanted to live with his girlfriend, but he couldn't because he was drafted to the army. So we discovered that each story shows a very, very different approach to the notion of conscientious objection. And as a result, we collected 10 stories from 8 countries. So it was Belgium, Russia, Spain, Eritrea, Greece, Israel, and Turkey. And all of the stories are showing the different words of the notion of conscientious objection. And it was really important for me that we didn't really speak much about policy there or the story or anything related to law. We just wanted to amplify voices of conscientious objectors. And speaking of which, we have three of our participants with us. We have Sam from Russia, Ayana from Israel, and Mayis from Turkey. And in the next 30 minutes, I would like to give space to them. But before we start, we would like to introduce you one person who participated in our study, and it was he was called Jean Van Leert, and he was an important pacifist and activist in Belgium. And I would like to give the floor to my colleague Charlène, who will introduce him a bit more and will tell why we choose to put him to this work. So thank you very much.
Yes. Hello, everyone. So my name is Charlène, and I'm part of Agir pour la Paix team. I've been an activist for most of my adult life, and lately the atmosphere surrounding warfare has become suffocating. The world is in an accelerated race toward militarization, and we can all feel the implication could be devastating for all, our families, our friends, our children, and all the living world. This is why we are all concerned. Sometimes the stakes seem so immense and beyond our reach that we feel dispossessed of an acting capacity. But in Agir pour la Paix, we believe that it is by weaving solidarity, learning the history of social struggles, and hearing the voices of those who resist that we'll be able to build enough resistance and resilience for the times to come. This is why this publication means so much to us. It is a breach in the dominant discourse, breath of air in the warfare miasma, and it is a way to make heard the voices of those who refuse to participate in war in all of their complexity, their different paths in life. Their voice will not stay discreet. They refuse to be quiet, and we are happy to lend our aid in spreading their stories. So when we were contacted by the Quakers who wanted to publish Jean Van Leert's speech that he pronounced when he was in trial, I was thrilled to see that Jean's heritage would be transmitted to this new generation of peace activists, because his time has passed since he pled in front of the War Council. The reasons that he invoked are as ever pertinent to our present. For a little context, he refused to serve in the military during the Cold War, when the totalitarian regime of the USSR was seen as the biggest threat in Europe, and as such, he criticizes the authoritarian communism in all the oppressive aspects it represents, but brings an approach in accord with his own convictions. It is important to mention that Jean was a distributive socialist. He believed in a Marxist vision of society and called himself an internationalist socialist. So when he condemns the communist regime, he before all condemns the structural system that pushes the masses toward extreme choices by putting their population through harsh and unfair living conditions. For him, creating inequality among the population, preventing access to basic needs and security, maintaining competition amongst the working class, depriving the citizens of their democratic power, all of these political struggles contribute in building the conditions to see emerge a totalitarian regime and war. As an objector, his activism envelopes a refusal of war and all of its causes. In alignment with this plea for peace and non-violence, he denounces the vicious structural causes that allow and encourage war. So colonialism, capitalism, and classism are at the heart of his political and spiritual struggle for peace. That is why he proclaims solidarity with all oppressed by these ideologies that structure our world. I want to mention the spiritual struggle because Jean was a Christian at heart. He belonged to the Universal Church, and his love and devotion for the Christ is very palpable in his plea. As an atheist myself, I cannot grab how much his faith weigh in his commitment, but you can feel in his words how deep it rooted his humanism and how it gave him strength to stand up for his ideas in the purest way. When the stakes become the eternal souls of humanity, the depth of following your conscience becomes an imperative. Jean was lucky enough to have a lot of support during and after his trial, through his network and beyond. He was condemned for 6 months in prison, but his case had such an echo in the public that it became a stepping stone for the creation of a legal status here in Belgium for conscientious objectors. He remained a peace activist his entire life. He represented WRI in Belgium, for example, with other activists, which in time became Agir pour la Paix. And for example, he was president of EBCO, the European Bureau for Conscientious Objection. For a time, he spent his life trying to promote peace, non-violence, and helping other conscientious objectors through their struggle. And today, Agir pour la Paix continues his work, nowadays mainly through popular education, as we promote peace, non-violence, civil disobedience, active citizenship for a peaceful transformation of our society. Because today, militarization is very intense, and promoting the right to conscientious objection has become once again one of our top priorities. Any reason is valid to refuse war, and no one should be forced against their conscience to serve in the army, and by so to learn how to kill another soul. Activists like Jean built a path for the next generation, us, and I think we have the resources we need to spread their ideas. And the struggles that he held continues as ever, but this moment with you all, it gives us a lot of hope. So thank you, all of you, for your attention and for being there.
Thank you very much, Charlène. Hello, everyone. I am Semih Sapmaz from War Resisters International. Now we will continue with Ayana Gersman. Ayana, I hope I pronounce your surname correct because I always use your first name. That might be one of the few times I use your surname. So I did interview with Ayana for the booklet, and I couldn't get enough of asking questions to her. So in this session, I will continue asking more questions. Ayana is a conscientious objector from Israel. She is also part of Mezarvot, a network of conscientious objectors in Israel against the occupation. And we had the privilege to have an interview with Ayana for Voices of Peace. And we are very lucky that Ayana is available for joining us today as well. So thank you very much again for being part of this project and sharing your experiences and perspective with us, Ayana. So it's really inspiring for us to hear your activism, resistance, and critical voice. And one of the most inspiring bits in our interview, was the part that you talk about hope. What gives you hope? And in the booklet, in answer to my question of what gives you hope, you tell us about international solidarity, international pressure to Israeli government, resistance within the Israeli society. It was inevitably limited space in our booklet, and we can use this space now to open up these points more, maybe, and reiterate these points. So let me ask you again, as a young activist based in Israel, what gives you strength and hope to continue your activism for a change to end the occupation and genocides, despite ongoing intense militarization in Israel and in the region?
Well, there are some things which give me hope. As I said in the interview, and it is written in the booklet, most of my hope comes from international solidarity with groups from other countries, because inside Israel, most of the society does not get the idea of refusal or even not serving in the military. It is considered almost a betrayal. But in other countries, it does considered the right thing to do. And when I sat in jail, in military jail for my refusal, I got so many supporting letters from people that I don't know, I haven't met my whole life, from other countries, miles and miles away from me. And those letters really reminded me why I was in there, what the importance of my actions is, that it gets to people, even if in my country I cannot see that that people notice my actions or understand it. In other countries, people see it, and they know that this is right. And my hope that these people who know what is right will pressure their governments to pressure Israel to stop those actions, because I think that this might be the only way to stop the genocide, to stop the occupation, because as much as I want to have an effect by my political activity and my social activity on the government, I can be realistic and understand that the government let herself ignore us, because we're a small group that doesn't have the ability to pressure the government, and they don't care if they can continue with the occupation. They will continue it as they did for 59 years. So I think that this is the only way they might understand that they must stop. If other countries will say, we don't support you, we don't give you the money you need to continue this endless war, because I can also say that I see the news in Israel, and the only thing that does get to Israelis and to military people when they hear that there is when they hear the criticism from the outside, from the world, they don't say, oh wow, they criticize us, maybe they're right, maybe we are doing something wrong. No, what they say is, oh wow, the world criticizes us, that we might lose our legitimation. this is what bothers most of the society, that we must lose our legitimation from the world to keep going with the occupation, to keep going with the wars, and Israeli soldiers who do crimes in the war crimes might get arrested in other countries. This is what bothers them, not moral issues, but they get scared when they understand that something might happen from other countries. So this is my hope, that people from other countries will pressure their governments. But I do have hope that maybe something from the inside will change. This is why I keep going and do so, because always I have the idea that if I speak, if I echo a voice that does not heard in society, maybe someone will hear it and think about it. Maybe not now, maybe some decades, in some decades, when he will be 40 or 50 or 60, but something will he will understand something. This is my hope, and this is why I keep doing it, because it must change.
Thank you very much, Ayana. And I would like to second one comment from Rachel, who says, Ayana, your public resistance is so important because people outside get the impression that everyone in Israel supports the current government. And to be able to point out the resistors like you is crucial to counter this perspective. So, in relation to that, do you think there's a growing resistance within Israeli society? I know you made some pessimistic points about that as well, but also there are groups like Mezarvat that you're part of, for instance. Do you think your voices are heard more and more as the crimes committed by the Israeli government become even more obvious and impossible to turn a blind eye?
About the first question, no, there is not a growing resistance in Israel. There is a resistance. As you said, I'm a part of Mesarvot, which is a group of young people who say no to military service, and decide to refuse. So there are people in Israel who do so, and there are not so. This is not one or two people. There are hundreds of them, but it is still a very small group that almost does not have a voice that is heard among society. Israeli society tries to shut it down, to bury it under militarist voices or patriotic voices. So it is difficult to get to many Israelis, and to make them even know that there is such a thing, a refusal. But I can say that this is about the second question, that about the question of whether we are heard more when the crimes become more more hideous, more unhuman. Yes, I think we are heard more. It happened during the genocide in Gaza. When it's it is still going on, but when it was at the center of the Israeli attention, the war in Gaza, when there were still Israeli hostages in Gaza, in some point, maybe a year after October 7th, Israelis understood that it is not going anywhere, that this government just wants to continue this war and continue this killing, the destruction of Gaza, the war that does not that says the government said that this war meant to bring the hostages back to Israel, but people saw that hostages died from these IDF bombing. It only put their lives in risk. And I think this was the thing that made Israelis understand that it is irrational, that this war that pretends to bring the hostages just kills them, that it is just an excuse for Netanyahu to keep going and just to stay on his chair as a prime minister. So I remember that it was that there was a point when there were there was a voice which was quite a mainstream voice, which called to stop serving in the military, to people to stop. For example, pilots. There was a group of pilots who said that they cannot continue like this unless the war stops. And it became more and more heard, this voice amongst a mainstream group. There were heads of the army, former heads of the army, said publicly that what is going in Gaza was a genocide, was a black flag, was that we must stop it right now. And people said, famous people in the Israeli consensus said that people must refuse at that point. So now this voice is not heard, because for the Israeli public, this war is quite over. Yeah, it does continue with Lebanon and Iran. Netanyahu just tries to continue it in every way that he can, but since the hostages came back, and so Gaza was quite forgotten, so there isn't a refusal voice that is heard anymore within the mainstream. But I think that this might give me hope that even people from the center of the public, that are not radical, a radical group like us, they can understand that in moments that are that cannot be accepted, of moments of ruining every piece of humanity, they cannot say yes, they cannot blindly agree to be a part of it. And even the holy center of the Israeli society, the IDF, is not so holy anymore in these points. So this gives me hope.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Ayana. I have so many other questions and comments but then we are running out of time. So
Yeah, sorry.
there will be a space for Q&A. So we will receive questions from others as well, although we have limited time. I'm gonna pass to Zaira now.
Sure.
Has Mayis joined us, Zaira? Okay, perfect. So yeah, I'm passing to
And
Zaira.
thank you very much, Ayana, for sharing this hope, because it's so important, as it has been said, that your voice is heard, because we can support that hope, but actually your hope gives hopes to us as well. So it's so important. So thank you very much. So thank you for all those who are joining us this evening. So I'm Zaira Zafarana, and I'm mainly working on international advocacy for the right to conscientious objection and supporting conscientious objectors worldwide, specifically within the UN institutions, but also the European level, and also supporting some solidarity campaign. I've been working as the coordinator of the international advocacy for Connection EV, and I had the privilege to have a long discussion with Mayis, interviewing him. So I would like to welcome Inan Mayis Aru. We will call him Mayis. He comes from Turkey, and thank you so much for joining us, Mayis. And one important thing is to flag as we start to talk with Mayis is that Turkey is the only country in the Council of Europe who did not recognize the right to conscientious objection. As we heard, even in countries where this right is recognized, there are so many violations. But now let's deep in Turkey, where actually the situation of conscientious objectors is defined as of civil death. So we will hear a little bit more from Mayis, and thank you. So let's go straight to the first question, Mayis, for you. You described in your experience that around 18 years old, you started to join some anti-militaristic groups. And then after 10 years, you decided to declare your conscientious objection to military service in Turkey. And actually, you chose 2008 because you felt that rising regionalist symbolism made your refusal more politically meaningful. So my question for you is, do you think that conscientious objection could be taken as a collective stand? And in what ways this could lead to overcoming the culture of war?
Hello, Zaira, and hello, everyone. Thank you for this organization, and thank you for inviting me. Like I said to you in our interviews, it was like I was part of the anarchist circles and anti-military circles from a very young age, from like 15, and like around 18 I was part of some groups, anti-military groups, organizing events and like campaigns and other stuff. And in the process, it was for me like in Turkey there is this huge militarization. It's everywhere, and everything is militarized, and you see the military symbols and the flags and everywhere in the daily life. And for me, it was more like in the beginning it wasn't only about militarism. It was the state oppression that triggered me in the first place, and it was more all like it was about resisting a system that demands absolute loyalty. So I was questioning those things, and I had already decided to declare that I had already decided that I wouldn't go to the military anyway, but I didn't know how. There are a lot of options. Still there were, and still there are a lot of options for many people. Like in Turkey now, they introduced in the last 5 years, they introduced paid military service. Like you can pay a huge amount of money, and then you go only for a symbolic period of time, and your military service is considered done. But many people cannot pay this. And also, like I was in this international solidarity circle of other activists, and I was always supported by friends and other activists, and like some people were some friends, comrades were inviting me to go to some EU country and make a political marriage and evade the military service in such a way, or my family was supporting me to evade the service. So it wasn't only about evading the service for me. I had the options. I had the chances to evade the service. It was, from the beginning, it was something political for me. It was something about like getting our voices, our stance heard in this society, in this highly militarized society. So I tried to choose the right timing for this declaration of mine, and it was as you told, it was in 2008 when this nationalist symbolism and military symbolism was everywhere around. I decided, okay, now I have to take the stance and show my stance. And but the thing is still it's been many years, and I've been talking to. I'm living mostly in the rural side of the country, and I talk to many people, from villagers to agriculture workers to everyday people, and I never conceal my stance, and I always tell them about this anti-militarist views and conscientious objection, and they are surprised, but I think in a good way they are surprised that they never think that they had this chance, that they could they didn't think that they could say no to going to the army. It was like there a huge thing, and they didn't think that there was another chance. Now they have this paid military service, but most of the people, they just can't afford it. It's out of the question for many of the Turkish people, especially like the masses, the poor people. So this conscientious objection, this declaration, is not only about like it is about my conscience, that it is about that I don't want to go and serve in the army, but it's not only about it. As I said, there are many ways that I can do this, avoid serving in the army, but most people, they just can't do it, and we just need to make our voices heard, that so that they can have this thing in their mind. That there is this chance, that there is another way that we can do this. So they can say. It was like this for me. Like when I was 15, I read the news about the older generation of activists, anti-militarist activists, and I said, there is a way. I knew that I didn't want to go, but I never knew that how it could be possible. So I think like politicization and socialization of this movement is very important. It's the in our context, at least in the Turkish context, I believe it is the most important thing, because, like I say, there are ways to avoid. If you don't want to go, I could have avoided it, and many people, at least like many conscientious objectors in Turkey, like we are coming from educated families and stuff, so we know how to go through the current and how to avoid. But there are people who cannot do this, so the most important thing is like making our voices heard more and more in the society, so they also have a chance to think out of the box, I believe.
Thank you very much, Mayis, and for this answer and very interesting insight. We would like also to deepen on another aspect that you raised during the interview. We can see trees behind you. You already said that you chose to live in a rural area. And you spoke also a lot about mindfulness. So I would like to invite all the participants here really to read your interview, because you did address very interesting topic like all the other conscientious objectors, but just from different perspective. And this is an added value of this publication, because it approaches the topic from a human dimension. And something that you spoke about is being close to nature. You served a jail sentence, and you also did a civil service substitute in the forestry department. The question is, how do you envision the connection between environmental sensitivity and the struggle against militarism and war? How is this connection guiding you in your life now?
Thank you for this question. This means a lot to me. For me, like when I declared even before that, when I decided that I wouldn't go to the army, at around the same time, like I was exploring Eastern philosophies and Buddhism and Mahayana and Zen Buddhism, and then I began practicing meditation and Zen Buddhism, and still I'm practicing. I don't necessarily call myself a Buddhist, but still I'm practicing. But and I realized that for me the most important thing in this philosophy was the interconnectedness. Like when you see the world as not as self and others, but a huge unity of selves, like non-selves, and acting all together in an interconnected way, like, and all we are somehow, all our actions are connected to other people's actions. That talked a lot to me. And so also, like, my stance of non-violence comes from this point of view. Any form of violence I make to others also is a form of violence I make onto myself. And also this point of view made me think about the non-human beings, or like non-living beings, even the what we call nature in general. And my family was also like forestry workers, and I was raised by them in the forest. And when I was a child, I spent a lot of time in the forest with them, and I thought that we were all connected. And then I realized, like, not only we are militarized, human beings are militarized, also all the nature, what we call nature, is also being militarized. For instance, like especially I see it a lot in the last 20 years because the forest practices are changing a lot, and I see that now in the old times we had forests. Now we have plantations, and the plantation is like a military unit. They plant the trees in lines, and they are just like soldiers for the wood industry or whatever. And so I believe we have to stand against not only militarism in the human society, but militarization of all life, and also including the forests and the animals and the plants. And like I've been farming. I live in the rural areas, and I've been farming for a long while, and I see also this in the farming practices, like in the monocultures, and like I've been trying to raise awareness about this in every village I've lived till now, like trying to introduce some form of permaculture or agroforestry practices within the communities in the villages I live. But we started some cooperatives, collectives of villagers, and I believe this is also some kind of anti-militarist activity, not only an environmentalist activity. We should stand against the militarization of whole life. It is not me and the others. It's not human beings and other beings. We are all in it together, and we have to defend our lives all together, I believe.
Thank you so much, Mayis, for your contribution and also for leading us on this different aspect of the topic. We have no more time to go deeper, but surely there would be future opportunities. So I would like to thank you and then pass the floor to Natalia for the Q&A. Thank you again, Mayis.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you, Mayis and Ayana, for your intervention. Hi, everyone. I'm Natalia. I'm from War Sisters International, and now we'll have more or less 10 minutes to answer some of your questions. So there are two addressed to Ayana, one from Beyond. I think I'm pronouncing it well. And then someone else asked another question for Ayana. So the first one is, there were so many before you. Is your movement somehow connected with those who refused to go and fight in the occupied territories before you, or with those who participated in community building efforts, such as Neve Shalom? And then the other question is, if some European countries will make continuously political objection regarding the situation in Gaza, do you think it would make more sense to force a change to Israel? So those two questions to Ayana.
Yeah, about the first question, yeah, our movement Mesarvot is it started in another movement. Yes, there were many movements before us of many refusers before us. It started, I think, in the 80s, in the war, in the first war of Israel with Lebanon, when people started to. This was a very long war, and people understood that soldiers are only being killed for nothing, and the most I think that the first time people in Israel understood that we were doing something wrong was the massacre in Sabra and Shatila in Lebanon, which was not made by Israeli forces. It was made by Lebanese forces against another Lebanese group, but Israeli forces in the IDF's forces actually allowed it to happen. So there was a global criticism, and people in Israel were really shocked about it. It was very different from today. So people started to understand that they cannot be a part of the army, and I think that these were the first cases of people who refused. They organized a group which is living until today. This group, it is called Yesh Gvul, meaning there is a limit, and though there are some groups, but the main resistance group from people who totally resist to be a part of the army became Mesarvot, which I am a part of it, and this network really did everything for me related to my refusal. Neve Shalom, I don't think it is related to this. It was a project of Israeli people who tried to build a place in which Israelis and Palestinians live together in peace. But I don't think it is related to the refusal movement. About the second question, it was yes, about the pressure. Yes, I totally think that that it will change something. Pressure from more pressure from European countries, or even the I don't see a situation where Trump says is the rational voice, but yeah, he is controlling all of the wars in here. So we can see that when he doesn't want a war, when it doesn't go with his when he doesn't want it anymore and it is costing him too much, he stops it, and he has most of the power. But European countries totally have power over Israel. As much as Netanyahu says to Israeli public that we can stand alone, he tries to say it that we see that the world is turning against us, but we will stay a powerful country, and we will win by ourselves all the wars. It is not true. Israel cannot stay alone. She needs desperately the financing of other countries, the USA and the European countries. So yes, of course, if the world will put sanctions over Israel for its actions, for its crimes. Yeah, I believe it is the main thing that might change all of it.
Thank you, Ayana. Now there's a question to Mayis. They asked, where are you at the moment? And it is possible to live freely being a CEO. Are you safe? Are you at any risk living where you are at the moment?
I live in Turkey, in the southern western part of Turkey. Now I'm in a village, and yes, it is in a way safe and not safe. It's complicated. I can live my life but that was for me important. Like I decided I will live my life as a normal person. I will not make this conscientious objection a jail for me, like a prison for me. It will, but of course that there is this, like I recently saw some prison service. I was in jail for a while, and there are 2 more court cases ongoing, and probably I will get prison sentence from those court cases, and I will go serve some prison time again. But other than that, like, yeah, I live freely, and I now, like, after my imprisonment, it was more of a fuel for me. It was a kind of fire for me, and I decided we need to organize better for in our circles, because for a long while we were not well organized as conscientious objectors. In the past times we were better organized, but then somehow we all have our daily problems, economical problems and stuff. So yeah, we were somehow dispersed, but that present time made me think, okay, we need another kind of organization, and not only for the CEOs, maybe like some kind of like civil service campaign for other people, because like most of the CEOs in Turkey, they are total objectors, including me. Also, like, if there was the civil service option, many of the total conscientious objectors would refuse it. But that's not the same for the society. So I kind of begin to start a campaign for civil service in the society, because that would get some more public support. And yeah, I'm living and I'm struggling, fighting in the society.
Thank you, Mayis. Great. I think, and I hope it's okay if everyone stays a couple minutes more. So I pass it again to Sarah, just so we can close this space. And thank you, Mayis, Ayana, and Charlène, for your interventions.
Thank you very much, Natalia, for facilitating this short time of Q&A, but it has been very interesting to hear some more answer from Ayana and Mayis. As you heard, so the situation of conscientious objectors, specifically in Europe, because this is the geographical area that we are addressing today, is very critical. We mentioned Turkey, we mentioned Israel, but there are so many other countries where there are major issues. For instance, we can also flag countries where formally the right to conscientious objection has been recognized, but there are still several violations of human rights of conscientious objectors. One very clear example is Greece, where there is a punitive alternative service. It's not the only country. We do have also Finland and some more. And as we are talking about the publication, we included also the stories of conscientious objectors from Russia, for instance, where There is, of course, an ongoing war of occupation in Ukraine, and we are reported of cases of forced mobilization. People are jailed as well. And when we talk, for example, of Ukraine, this right, which is a human right because it's inherent to the right to freedom of thought, conscience, and religion, is currently suspended, which is a violation of international law. It's not possible to suspend a human right. And additionally, we just received a few days ago a report from a journalist stating that some conscientious objectors have been killed in Ukraine. So this is very concerning. And I would like also to acknowledge the presence of Yuri Shelyatsenko here with us, who has been forcibly taken, and as some other conscientious objectors and other citizens, and was incommunicado for some hours. So the situation of the conscientious objectors in Europe is very dramatic and very concerning. And the last item we would like also to highlight is that several countries in Europe are considering reintroducing conscription. We already have the example of Croatia, but there is a lot ongoing also in Germany and in several other countries like France and in Italy, where there are always political discussion about reintroducing conscription or introducing some mandatory educational militaristic program for young people. We have Belgium, where all the 17 years old receive a letter to serve in the army. So this is very alarming as the militarization of education. This is something that it's ongoing, for example, in Belarus, where there are militaristic camps for underage people where they are trained by professionals. So these are just some of the items. Of course, we cannot deepen all of this, but this is part of the work that we are regularly doing. And we would like to conclude just to give you some ideas of how you and each one of us, we can support conscientious objectors everywhere. So I will just briefly share a slide that can give you some ideas. You already mentioned some of this as we were talking together. So surely organizing such public events will help to raise awareness as well echo the voice of conscientious objectors, just as this simple publication can do. But also it's important to stay in contact. Some of you also ask for links on social media to share what the local groups of conscientious objectors are doing and are declaring, as well as planning solidarity actions. And it's also important to advocate at the local level and the international level. And as we talk about the local level, let me just point out 1 second about the urgent need of international protection for conscientious objectors and deserters who are living and forced to leave their country because their life is at risk. I'm talking specifically about Belarusian, Russian, and Ukrainian conscientious objectors. Just last week, one Russian deserter has been pushed back from Lithuania and now he's jailed. So this is very concerning for us. And of course, also all these legal assistance requires some financial support. So financial support is also something else that you can do to support conscientious objectors. And last, in the publication, there is one reference to the Refuse War international action. You can go to the website and you can, any of you can, stand for peace and object to war. You can publish your own personal declaration of refusal of war. And this is a way to support individuals who are doing this at their own risk in countries where this right is violated. So I really thank you for being with us today. As it has been mentioned in the chat, we will send brief information to all the participants, and you are more than welcome also to follow up and ask for more information. All our organizations and us as individuals are at your disposal to help to support the human right to conscientious objection to military service. Thank you to everyone.
Thank you very much.
Thank
So
you.
now we will review to enjoy your evening. And thank you very, very much for coming. And we will send you an email, as Zaira said, with all of the information, so you will have everything sorted out.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you very
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you. Thank you, Ayana and Mayis, for being with us. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
And please bring our support to your also local organization, Mezervot and CO Watch. Thank you.